Sergeant Joe Watson. I've been with the St. George Police Department for 15 years now. Ran a dog for 8 years. Single-purpose narcotics canine is what I ran. I actually ran 2 dogs. One was a German Shepherd, Roscoe, who passed away due to health complications, and after that I ran canine Emma, who's a purebred Labrador Retriever, for 4 years, also narcotics detection. Well, with St. George City right now, we have a total of 3 dogs, 2 on patrol and 1 with Washington County Drug Task Force. You have canine Enzo, who's a Belgian Malinois, purebred. You have canine Emma, who's my prior dog, who's now running on patrol as well. And then you have canine Carly, who's a chocolate lab mixed with a Chesapeake Bay Retriever. So they're both all certified in narcotics detection. Enzo, being the Belgian Malinois on patrol, is also certified with apprehension work and the patrol side of things. He's also certified for tracking, suspect apprehension, as well as article searching for things like missing evidence, guns, things like that, area canvassing. Can track suspects if needed to, can also track human disturbance odor if we needed to deploy him in a manner to look for a wandering vulnerable adult or missing child as well. Yeah, I'm the coordinator over the program. I no longer run a dog, however, I do coordinate the efforts of the officers that run their canines and oversee the day-to-day operations. Running a canine is a taxful, stressful situation, but it's also one of the more rewarding situations that an officer has the opportunity of running. It's one of the highlights of my career thus far. It initially takes about 6 to 8 weeks per discipline to train a handler and the dog in whatever discipline they're doing, whether it be narcotics, explosive detection, or suspect apprehension. So if you're a dual purpose certified dog where you're running either explosive detection and narcotics detection, or with the patrol side of things, it's quite a lengthy time away as far as training to get that certification in. All of our dogs are certified on 6 main odors, including marijuana, heroin, meth, cocaine, as well as ecstasy and psilocybin, mushrooms, essentially, is what they locate. We do not have any explosive detection canines with St. George City currently, but we're hoping in the futures that we have the abilities to expand the program and continue due to the successes that we've had with the canines thus far. Our handlers are required to train 4 hours the minimum per week on each discipline that they do. So if you're a dual certified dog, that is 8 hours of training per week that you're required to take. A 16-hour monthly of training for each handler team. So in all the department, canines are actually one of the more trained officers in their field due to the requirements in order to meet their certification. They're also required to take a yearly certification exam. That's an exam for the handler as well as the canine, and they're taken before certified judges and have to show that their dog can meet the requirements and that the handler is properly trained to identify the dog's body language in identifying those designated odors, as well as on the patrol side of the thing that they maintain certain control over their dog in those high stress situations, and that we don't just run dogs that are out of control. They're very well trained, very well disciplined, and it's a yearly test that every handler has to take in order to maintain their certification and be able to deploy their dogs. So when I started my canine career, there was 3 handlers, 1 with Hurricane City, 1 with Washington County Sheriff's Office, and 1 with myself here at St. George. 8 years now, fast forward, now we have a total of 10 canines in the county alone, as well as different regionals. We have Mojave County Canine as well as the Marshals up in Colorado City and Hilldale. Every week, all of us gather together and train all together. Every single canine in this area is expected to adhere to the post requirement. We all adhere to the same requirements and the same policies in order to deploy our dogs. They're all very well trained, experienced handlers and experienced canines. The benefit of training together is we're able to identify each other's weaknesses and improve each other's dogs on a week-to-week basis so that they just keep getting better and better and more dependable. It helps us improve the camaraderie between the different agencies and helps facilitate better cohesion in protecting each of our communities, because what goes on in Hurricane is going to spill out into St. George, and it helps keep that under control. And it's also an exchange of information to help us better investigate our cases, identify who we're dealing with, and come to a successful conclusion. One of the benefits of training with multiple agencies, I myself have deployed for Hurricane City, I've deployed for Washington City, the county deputies. I've also even gone into Arizona in the past and deployed for Arizona DPS, deployed for Mojave County. All of it coming together. Some of my biggest drug busts with my K9 Emma were with Mojave County traffic stops, assisting them with people that are bringing narcotics into the state of Utah, and vice versa. We have relied on other agencies from Washington City and Hurricane City. We had an incident not too long ago where we're trying to locate a suspect that had evaded officers, and we actually had a Washington County deputy K9 as well as a Hurricane City K9 that were able to respond and assist us in locating and apprehending that suspect safely. All the canines live with their handlers 24/7. The handlers are actually with their canines more than they are with their own families, due to the fact they come and work with us for 10 hours and then they go home and live with us. All the canines interact very well with the officers' families, including their children. There are certain boundaries. Again, these are working dogs. These are not pets. They have certain boundaries that are established in order to keep them invigorated to go to work instead of just lounge around on a puffy pillow. So they have certain rules and responsibilities, but when these dogs are at home, they are allowed to be dogs in order to, because that's what they are. They are allowed their playtime, they're allowed to relax, they have their off duty just like the regular officers. But they know the difference when that officer puts their harness on or when that officer puts on their uniform. The dog knows they're going to work. They're very excited to come do this work, and they know the difference. And a happy dog at home is a happy dog at work. The difference between in the two disciplines, so explosive detection and narcotics detection are essentially the same thing. We're just teaching them to detect different odors. Explosive detection canines, they're typically trained anywhere up to about 32 to 34 different odors, what it takes to create any type of explosive device. Narcotics, obviously ours are only trained and certified to detect 6 odors because that's what the narcotics are. Our dogs are not trained on things like PCP or fentanyl due to the fact of the high absorption. Those drugs are designed specifically for absorption. It's unsafe for the handlers to train with these narcotics, as well as it's unsafe for the dogs if they were to put their nose on it. It takes very minute amounts to cause injury to the dogs. So they're only trained on those 6 odors. And in regards to the dual purpose on the apprehension side of things, also known as patrol work, they're designed to essentially locate and apprehend suspects, violent suspects, to assist officers in taking them into custody. They are what's known as a force multiplier. They do wonderful things. I've seen suspects that say they're willing to take a bullet, but when a dog shows up on scene and the dog just has to simply bark and have its presence known, the person was seen to give up completely peacefully, where no amount of force was actually used on that individual and was taken safely into custody. It's also one of the only uses of forces that officers have at their disposal where they can deploy that use of force, and if the suspect decides to change their mind and decides to comply, they can recall that use of force. Unlike a taser or other non-lethal means or lethal means, once you pull that trigger on that device, that use of force is done. You can't recall that munition or that pepper spray. Once it's deployed, it's deployed. At K9, however, if I send the dog and the situation changes, I can just as quickly recall my dog back to me in order to safely take that person. It's the only use of force option that has that ability. I've seen dogs do amazing things just in their presence alone. Majority of the handlers throughout the state end up taking apprehensions without any type of bite or fight due to the fact of how good these dogs do, and that multiplier about their mere presence puts on with the bark and that. So it allows officers to safely take suspects into custody without having to get into altercations. It protects the suspects who maybe they are going through some type of drug-induced psychosis or mental health issue that are being violent, but for some reason the dogs, based on their mere presence alone in a lot of the cases, calm that individual to the point of compliance, and we're able to resolve things safely, which is, it's astounding what these dogs can do. People ask a lot about ballistic armor for our canines. Issue being is these canines, that ballistic armor is heavy. And for a dog, especially in our hot climate during the months, it will overheat the dog if they wore it the entire time they're on their shift. There are situations where our canines do have ballistic armor if they're put into a high-risk situation like a SWAT deployment, or where we know a barricaded person, we can put that armor on that dog at that point, so it's only wearing the armor at that specific time. But typically they don't drive around on patrol with their officers with the armor on, due to the fact that it's going to put added wear and tear on their bodies and their joints, limiting the lifespan of their career, as well as it has a possibility of causing overheating issues and general frustration with the dog, who doesn't understand why he has to wear this heavy device. One thing that I always press with our citizens: if you see police officers with their emergency lights on over, please slow down and move over. There has been several instances where a canine is out doing a sniff, and they come around the side of the car and they get hit by a car because they didn't want to move over. If you have the opportunity, please slow down, move over, give our officers the space and our canines the space so that they can work safely and that everybody can go home safely. Typically, for safety concerns, we'll always ask people to get out of the car while we run our dog, just for those safety concerns. We don't typically put our dogs, we in some instances have put our dogs inside of vehicles to help find hidden compartments and things of that nature, but those are very rare instances due to the fact dogs like to put their noses in places that they probably shouldn't, and they run the risk of getting poked by needles or absorbing or even ingesting, because as we all know, dogs like to just put things in their mouth. They're kind of like toddlers in that sense. So to protect our dogs, we take these safety precautions to make sure that they're as safe as they can be. The safety of the dogs is paramount, in that all vehicles are installed with what we refer to as the hot dog system. It's essentially just sensors set up in each of the canine vehicles. There's also fans that are set up in the windows so that if, especially in our summer months where it gets incredibly hot in triple digits here, it's designed that if the AC system were to fail for some reason, the windows automatically roll down. There are metal bars in place so the dog can't get out or people can't get to the dog, but the windows will roll down, big large fans turn on and start sucking as much of the hot air out of the vehicle, and then the car alarm and alarms are alerted, as well as each officer and handler has a pager system on them that tells them the exact temperature of the vehicle, and then it will alert them and page them that something is wrong with their vehicle so that they know they can go check on their dog. This has actually happened to me personally on one instance where for some reason my vehicle stopped working and stopped running, and I was actually here at the PD doing some reports, and it alerted me quickly and said that it was getting upwards of 80 degrees in my car. I was able to quickly run out, get my dog out of the car, saving his life, so that I could get things repaired. So we take safety of our officers very, very seriously, and we take as many precautions as we can to protect them in all these different situations.
Hi, I'm Anthony Ott. I am a canine handler for the Police Department of St. George. Been working with the department for a little over 5 years, and been operating as a canine handler now for a little over a year. The dog's name is Emma. She is a 6-year-old black lab. Emma goes home with me every night. She has a life that's probably a little more lenient than most police canines. She has her own room, of course, but I let her out of her room, feed her, kind of just give her some attention, some love for the moment, for the morning. Typically what I'll do is, I've got things to do during the day, like go work out or just get ready for work. So typically she'll go outside, hang outside till I get home. We prepare to work together. We have a routine every day where she goes in her crate up until the point when we go to work. As soon as she comes out, as soon as she knows that her dog collar goes on, that's when it's time to go to work. And then coming home, it's kind of the same thing, unwinding after, even if the day's been long, you know, just kind of unwinding with her, kind of decompressing me, feed her, and then putting her in her crate, letting her know, okay, now it's time to go to bed for the night, and then same thing starting all over tomorrow. She lives in the house, so how her living arrangement is set up is we've turned our front office into essentially her room. So it's a room. She still has a crate in there that's just left open. She can come in and out as she pleases, but that's kind of her safe spot is what I've come to realize. And so even if the door's open, if I tell her to go to crate, she's gonna go in there and stay in that crate till I tell her to come out. My patrol shift's a little bit different than obviously most patrol officers. I'm very limited on the calls that I actually have to respond to, unless, you know, we're short manpower or, you know, they need another officer. So for the most part, Emma and I get to be really proactive, and proactive's benefiting the city. typically what we do is we look for criminal behavior, and criminal behavior specifically revolving around the world of drugs. And at the same time, we're constantly monitoring the radio, making sure that if any calls come out that could be drug related or anything like that, we're going to be available. And the whole purpose is she can do something that no other thing can do. And so we utilize her as a tool, and she's a very valuable tool, not just to this department, but to this entire city. And so whenever we can spot criminal behaviors or respond to something that might have some sort of drugs involved, we use her skills, specifically her nose, and hopefully we can determine exactly what's going on. We can get something that maybe didn't seem like it was going to be there in the first place. Emma is a single purpose, so she is strictly narcotic detection, and truth be told, she's probably the most lovable canine you'll ever come across. She would never bite anybody. She'll lick you before she bites you. As you see, this is Emma's office pretty much whenever we go to work. In the back here, we've got what's called to be a half cage set up for her. And essentially on the other side of that half cage, that would be where the prisoners are placed and transported to jail. This half, as you see, this door right here opens. That opens if I want it to. And really, she's a 50-pound dog, but she's got quite a bit of room. So the cage stops about right here, which is more than enough room for her to be comfortable and to relax. As you see, she's got a water bowl right there that's stuck to the ground so it doesn't move, doesn't roll around. She has a special trick where she can close the door by herself with this rope. And then the cool thing with this car is, it's hard to see from out there, but up in here, she's got her own air conditioning and heating vents that blow directly on her. It operates on a system that's called the hot dog system. And what a hot dog system is it's an electronic device that we have in our car. It'll give me live up to the minute temperature readings of her kennel. It'll give me live temperature readings of the prisoner cage. And essentially what that does is I can regulate that. So obviously living in St. George, it gets extremely hot. We don't ever want to do anything that would cause her harm. And so we set that temperature. And if we turn the car off and all of a sudden the inside got above a certain temperature, this window will automatically roll down. This window will automatically roll down. As you see, there's a built-in fan right here. And essentially, if that car gets too hot, this window rolls down. This fan starts blowing hot air out of the car. My lights and sirens turn on just to notify me. In the event that I'm away from my vehicle, can't hear it, I also have a device that's attached to my duty belt. It's essentially just like a remote. It'll do the exact same thing. Show me the live temperature reading, both her cage, prisoner cage, and just keep me updated with that. If I am away from the car and it goes off, it'll start vibrating me and notifying me, hey, you need to get out there and get something figured out with the car. Okay, so as you can see, this is the prisoner side. This is essentially the other side of Emma's kennel. Like I said before, if I wanted to, this door could slide open. However, there's just no need for it. Prisoner has his own space. There's absolutely no way for a canine to get to him, her, whoever, unless I were to specifically open that door. And it's not something that she can do manually on her own. So the prisoner sitting back here is very safe in terms of where Emma's positioned and being able to get to him. So being a canine handler it has its days where, as like most humans, sometimes we don't want to listen, sometimes we don't want to behave, and so working with Emma through that can sometimes be a challenge. But overall, she's a very obedient dog. I will say that Emma is probably the most rewarding. She has given me the most rewarding feeling as being a police officer, just to be able to see what her possibilities are, what she does, and how she benefits not just me, not just this department, but this entire city, the citizens that live here. Drug use, stuff like that really strikes home with me personally, and so any way that I can incorporate her getting drugs off the streets out of the hands of kids, innocent people, that to me is a huge reward in itself.
My name is Officer Cody Adams. I've been with the St. George Police Department for 8 years. I'm currently assigned to the Canine Division. I am a canine handler. My canine is named Enzo. He is an 8-year-old Belgian Malinois. He's kind of the grandpa in the group, but he's still going hard and working every day. I've been working with him for 2.5 years now. I'm actually his third handler. Two previous handlers got him started and made it really easy for me to step in and work with him. It's a great gig. It's a favorite position that I've ever had. Best job in the world, in my opinion. It's one of those assignments where it's not just a job to me, it is an entire lifestyle. And it's something that I've incorporated into my personal life with my family. And I have learned some very valuable and important lessons running a canine. The number one important lesson that I have learned is you have to have a very supportive, beautiful, understanding, wonderful, patient spouse. And with that, she has been an amazing support to me in my journey in my canine assignment. Something that's really unique that I enjoy about working with canines is it's my passion. It always has been. Ever since I was little, I've always had dogs, and I've always trained dogs. Something that I just have a natural talent for, and something that brings me a lot of joy, a lot of value into what I do every day. Got into this assignment for that reason. It is something that I've always strived for from day one being a police officer. I've always wanted to work with dogs and be a part of the canine unit. It took a lot of work, a lot of hard work and sacrifice, overcoming some challenges and waiting for an opportunity for the position to open up. Once it did, I was all over it. I'd prepared myself for a couple of years, going out and training with the handlers, helping them work with their dogs, seeing what they have to deal with every day, and making the decision as to whether or not that was something that I wanted to do. And I already knew that it was. Interviewed and was lucky enough to be selected for the position. Haven't looked back since. My dog is a dual purpose dog, which means he is certified and trained in 2 disciplines, including narcotics detection and criminal apprehension. And it is something that we have to keep up with our skills and train constantly. Today is actually a training day for me, and we get together with all the other dogs in the county. There's 12 total dogs in Washington County right now that we all train together every Tuesday. Help each other work through issues that we're seeing. We help each other stay motivated and make our dogs better. With the narcotics detection, my dog is trained on 6 odors, which include methamphetamine, heroin, ecstasy, cocaine, psilocybin mushrooms, and marijuana. With apprehension, he's trained in tracking, he's trained in bite work. That's some of the more fun stuff that we do. He's also trained in article searching, so we can go out into an open area, and if we're looking for a gun or a knife or something that we need to find, then I can send him out, and he's trained to search and locate those items. I've got a great partner. He's always ready to go, which keeps me motivated, makes me always ready to go. A typical day for us starts first thing in the morning. I wake up, get him out, and it's breakfast time. He gets fed once a day. We keep him on a very tight feeding schedule. We regulate exactly the amount of food that they get every day, just to make sure that they stay in shape and stay healthy. We try to maintain a weight number that is given to us by a veterinarian. And once the feeding happens, typically I'll play with him for a little while in my backyard, and then he goes in his kennel. And he usually doesn't come out until it's time to go to work. And he gets really excited when it's time for work, and you can see that that's all he wants to do. He just wants to go to work. He's very passionate about what he does, and he's very skilled at it. If it's a work day, we're working a 10-hour shift, and we show up and we are basically just another resource, another tool that can be used on the street. 99% of what I do is narcotics detection, which means I will go to traffic stops, or I'll make my own traffic stops if we believe that there could possibly be narcotics associated with that traffic stop. Then I can take my dog and run him around a vehicle, or run him on lockers. We can run storage units, all kinds of different situations, and let him do his thing and search for narcotics. We find a lot of drugs. Every day we're finding narcotics, and we're trying to keep the community safe by taking those off the street, and making sure that, especially with the kids, aren't exposed to all the negative effects that narcotics issues bring to a community. He is, in my opinion, one of the most valuable resources we have in the police department. We spend a lot of money on our dogs. A dog typically like him would cost in the area of $8,000 to $12,000, depending on where it comes from, and that's sometimes can be a very good price for these dogs. We train them constantly, and we get them up to a certain level that they have to maintain in order for us to use them on the street. Enzo specifically is kind of unique in that he's a very social animal. Like I said, he stays at my house and he interacts with my family. He is such a great part of what we do every day, and my family loves him. I have kids, and we have other dogs as well, and they instantly from day one have just become a pack together. And he gets along really well with my other dogs. My kids can pet him, my kids can play with him. I'm always there when he's out with them. My wife can take care of him if needed. Sometimes I have to go out of town for training or something, and I can trust that she's able to feed him and just take care of his basic needs. And he's really receptive to that, and easy to handle in that way. It's kind of a dream dog. Not all dogs are that way, especially with high drive dogs that are always used in police work. Sometimes you don't have that option. Sometimes it makes it more difficult. It's really about a lifestyle. It's not just a job, and that's the unique thing about it is a lot of officers, they put the uniform on, they check on duty, they work their shift, they check off duty, and that's the end of it for them. For canine handlers, it's quite a bit different because it never really ends for us, because we are constantly, whether we're at work on duty, we're working with the dog, or we're at home, we're always working with the dog. And it does take time. Some of the things that are kind of a downside is you have to deal with dog hair. You have to deal with just the regular things that come with maintaining an animal, which is extra work. I do get compensated for that, which is nice. However, it is just one more thing that we have to be aware of and work into our daily routine. Other than that, in my opinion, there is not a downside. It's all just a ton of fun, and putting in the work with the training end of it, seeing your dog progress and seeing his skills develop and what he can do to help protect me on the street and help protect other officers and the community as a whole is the most rewarding thing that I've ever experienced. Being able to deploy him and use him and see everything come together on the street and have those opportunities and those experiences that there's no other way would have happened is really what the payoff is. Another unique thing that I really appreciate and have grown to understand is the bond between a handler and his partner. It grows as time goes on, and it's one of those things that you just can't experience anything else like it unless you are a canine handler. Police officers, as a general, in general, are a tight brotherhood, and we get together. We can talk about things because we understand how things work. because we deal with it every day. Canine handlers are kind of in the same boat, but on a magnified level. And dealing with dogs is not something that is for everybody. So as canine handlers, we, as a group, are always watching each other's back. We always have tips and tricks and things that we're always working on, and sharing information with each other, and being there for each other, so that we can be successful as a group.